Hi, I'm Chris,
I'm Dave.
and this is Two Old Skeletons Talking.
Yes, it is. And we are coming from Seattle, Washington.
And today we are southbound on 99. We just passed the transfer station. We're heading down. We'll do a quick jump onto I-5, then onto 405, then 167 down to Tacoma.
I don't think that everybody in the world knows what a transfer station is.
Oh, the dump.
The dump. It's a dump,
It's
but
the
it's
dump.
not really like a big yard. It's a dump. So,
Right. No,
and
it's
that
a
kind of
building.
ties in with our topic today, right?
You know, it actually does. Yes, our topic today is junkyards.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of different junkyards that we have patronized over the years. And
Oh, so you think you're a junkyard, huh? Is that what you meant by patronizing?
that is not what I meant by
okay.
patronized. Which junkyard would you like to speak of first?
Well, first of all, I think you have to be of a particular mindset to really sort of understand the importance of junkyards, right? And how important junkyards have been in our lives, right? And by junkyards, any place that basically is selling things that other people don't want anymore, essentially,
Right.
is what I classify as a junkyard.
Well,
right?
the classic junkyard, I mean, I think that the name came from car junkyards.
Yeah.
And you go there and you can pull parts off of them to use for your own car, or you can have somebody there pull a part off.
Okay.
So this is at the Pick and Pull that's up in Linwood.
I was just there last weekend.
Were you?
I'll tell you that story later.
All right. So I've been wanting a trailer hitch
Yeah.
for this Volvo for a while. Finally, I was at that Pick and Pull, and I looked, and there was a Volvo that had it. So I pulled it. It took me about 30 minutes, and this is the factory trailer hitch, factory electronic control unit. And the beautiful thing about this control unit is it changes the gearing of the transmission to accommodate the fact that you have a big heavy load now.
Yeah. Cool.
So this whole thing together, I was looking it up. It's somewhere between like $350 and $450 for the trailer hitch, the pigtail, and the electronic control unit from Volvo. You want to know how much I paid?
120.
$28.
$28.
30 minutes and $28. That's what I had to pay.
Man. Yeah, that's
Love
a good.
Pick and Pull.
I love Pick and Pull too, and I was there because I have two vehicles. I have a little Hyundai Santa Fe, and I've got Red 5, which is a red Ford Ranger pickup
Right.
truck. And there's something about, again, the karma of certain inanimate objects. And part of the karma of Red 5 is that for whatever reason, on 4 different occasions, I've had to push somebody who's been disabled with that truck, right? And it just is the karma of that vehicle that we constantly end up
Feels
on
unusual.
It's weird that we just end up behind disabled vehicles all the time, right? And the last time was just like 2 weeks ago. I thought, my God, I've never done this other than being a cop. But in the 3 years I've owned Red 5, we're constantly pushing vehicles off the road. So I thought, screw it, I'm just going to go and get push bumpers for this thing so that
Right.
I can officially do it, right? And the thing that's great about a Pick and Pull, it's nice to be able to get factory equipment, but it's also nice to be able to get add-on equipment, right? To go there and say,
whatever's there.
yeah, I looked online for push bumpers, and they're $320 for a Ford Ranger pickup, right? I went there and found basically a cop push bumper system, and
Sure.
I pulled it off, and I paid like $40 for it.
Right.
So with some minor modifications, and luckily I can weld and I can do metal work, you know, I can adjust that thing and pop it right on the front, and I'm done. And now the next time Red 5 finds itself desirous of pushing other things, it will actually have a protective bumper to sort of do it. But yeah, no, I think for certain people, I think it's a perfect thing. I like going there too, because how often does this happen to you? You're doing something and some guy will walk over and say, "Are you a mechanic? Do you know anything about the lifter arms on a, Chevy Suburban?" And you're just like, "No, I know nothing." "Well, I'm trying to pull these lifter arms off," and I was like, "Dude, you're on your own, right?" But
No, that doesn't happen to me. What happens to me is people come and ask me for tools.
yeah.
Because, I usually tend to go pretty well stocked with a bag or maybe 2 of tools to do whatever I'm going to do.
The guys that kill me that show up with the plastic shopping bag just in it,
Yeah.
or even worse, literally just a handful of tools in their hand.
Well, yeah, like
It's like-
one plier.
Yeah, it's like, what would you
Not even a pair of pliers.
Come on, dude.
Just a plier.
work with me here. Work
Yeah.
with me. So in our history, junkyards going like before the internet was around and before you could go online and order a pillow block from China for a certain amount, you had to go and buy that stuff. You had to find a distributor for things, and that was tricky. You would go into a specialized place that's used to dealing with aeronautic engineers or someplace, and you're like,
Right.
well, I just need this one pillow block for this thing. Then you have to answer a bunch of questions like, well, what are you going to use it for, right? You know? back then you didn't have to do that if you went to a junkyard. And of course, I'm talking about the one that was probably the most influential on us.
For sure.
And you're going to say
Boeing Surplus.
And I'm going to say Pack Industrial. I knew that you were going to go a different way than
interesting.
that. Pack Industrial, I think, was so much more useful for us because they broke things down into its component parts. I mean, you could find a bin of pillow blocks. You could find a bin of things that you needed rather than like with Boeing Surplus, I tend to think of it as kind of whole systems. You have to buy like
that's true.
An entire
thing
and take off the part that you want, right? You know,
even if it only used to be part of an airplane, it's still got 5 parts that are part of this
assembly.
Thank you. This assembly.
Yeah. But Pack Industrial was great. Here was this place that was probably a quarter of a city block, and you could go and walk through sort of their junkyard part, and there would just be like some complete part off of something like a hydraulic scissor lift assembly that had just been sitting there for a long time. And 9 times out of 10, they charged you scrap rate for it. Right?
No, that's always what it was.
Yeah.
Except for a few motors. But yeah, like I bought most of my scaffolding there. You know, that's where I started buying scaffolding from, and it was just dirt cheap. Yeah, it was the scrap price for the steel, and scaffolding's not that heavy.
And then, of course, my close second is Boeing Surplus, which doesn't even really exist anymore except online.
And they move stuff through there infrequently. But it was a huge building, and then also a big yard. And I don't even know how many of my pneumatic rams came from there, but a few. So this was when we were both still working at Intamin. They would have racks that they had pulled from airplanes of airline chairs. So we just bought this set of 3 airline chairs for $40, and then I think you did most of the work of cutting them apart. And then of course, if you cut them apart, then you have to figure out a new base. So basically you made 2 chairs for us out of the outside chairs because they both have arms, and figured out how to make them stand. And on yours, you installed a dimmer in the armrest for your for the light on your lighting board.
I forgot about that part.
And then also in none of them would the recline work.
Well, because the oil had drained out of it.
Right. So you fixed the recline for both of them so that we could recline in place between cues. And I think we mounted the ClearCom station in the armrest of mine because they're just built to do tricky electronic things in the armrests.
No, that was fun, and I just remember thinking that was the coolest thing, that you could just go buy these airplane seats, you know?
It was. It was super cool. I still have mine.
I was going to ask you what you did with yours. I had mine up until we moved out of the Everett house, but the Everett house, the basement flooded, and it got all wet and moldy and stuff, and it wasn't worth keeping it. But
no, I still have mine. It's in the basement.
And then there's a Surplus place that you guys go to down in LA a lot, right?
Right. Apex Electronics. And Apex Electronics is awesome. It's very close to the Burbank airport. JPL is down there. So there's like airplane and rocket stuff that ends up there. But also it's very close to Hollywood. So all of the movie and TV studios will surplus things at Apex Electronics, and there's a big building, and then there's a huge outdoor yard, and they've been great because that's where we got the radio mast. Well, we call it a radio mast. I don't know if that's actually true. It's the pneumatic mast in a TV location truck that raises up the satellite dish to whatever that is, like 50 feet.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we saw one there. Ken saw it. He noticed it. We didn't even know actually how it raised. We thought it might be electric, but you just pump air in it.
Yeah, it's just a big, massive air cylinder.
Big, massive air cylinder. And we bought it for $70.
That's awesome.
It's totally awesome.
We've used that thing so many times for so many different projects.
No! Mr. Frost, are you alive then?
Still here, Nigel? Big mistake.
Lord help us.
The other thing that was like a huge find for us, so for one of our Skeleton Theater shows, because it's a rock show, we wanted to have this back wall able to light up in little 2-foot squares, all different colors, like a big checkerboard. And I was down in LA running around with Ken in his truck, and we were brainstorming how are we going to get all these different colored lights behind all of these squares. And we had been to Apex the day before, and we had seen that they had color scrollers for $5 a piece.
Oh my god.
And Ken
are you
said,
serious?
why don't we just get 25 of those color scrollers and do it that way? Have a color scroller on each light and put a theater light behind each one of those squares. And I said, dude, I think that's the solution. And we bought 25 of the best scrollers that we could find, because we only needed, I think, 18.
Right.
And then we pulled stuff from the ones that didn't work and made 18 that worked.
You know, what I think is funny about this is that we both work at what's technically the second largest children's theater in the country, right? But it's a large theater on a large scale, and, you know, it has a $3 million budget every single year for its productions. And yet, in many ways, because of sourcing surplus things and stuff like that, Skeleton Theater is better equipped than this theater. So you have made money by renting these $5 scrollers back to this large theater, which I just think is genius, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. And eventually they stopped doing that, because now we're kind of moving into RGB world.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
and
you
I
must
never-
have easily have made your money back at that point.
Well, in different ways, because like one of the times what I rented to them for was the designer wanted a custom scroll, right? Because
Yeah.
this was a thing that designers used to do. They said, well, I want these 12 colors, which
Yeah.
are different from the 12 colors that you already have.
Yeah.
So they have to get a custom scroll made. And so I said, well, Mike, I'll let you have the scrollers if you're going to get all of these extra custom scrolls, and I can have them when you're
Oh,
done. Because
that's
then that
smart,
just
yeah.
gives us more functionality with
Right.
our scrollers.
Yeah.
So that's what we did with that.
Yeah. Well, that's about it.
I think you may be right. Yeah, I think that's enough for Junkyards today.
All right.
All right, later.
Bye.